Hey guys, Philip Martin here. I wanted to quickly chat with you about the ACT reading test and creating this thing called a passage map. And when most students hear that when I advise them during the ACT reading test to annotate, they get pretty scared. And the reason they get scared is because in school that word can mean all sorts of different things. I've known teachers and been a teacher myself but I've known lots of teachers who, when they say annotate, they mean write a complete sentence to summarize every single paragraph in the textbook. Other teachers might say things like, while you're reading, every time you come to a word that you don't know, circle it and then look it up and define it in the margins. And there's so many different other meanings of the word annotate. But when I'm talking about ACT reading and I say annotate, I don't mean that at all. I'm going to hop over to an iPad and I'm going to show you something called a passage map very quickly. Then I'm going to come back here and explain to you the 3 big reasons why this is important and why it's a good thing to do. Okay guys, we want to keep this simple if we can. Making a passage map simply means that next to each paragraph while you're active reading, that just means reading quickly, you want to summarize in the margins the main purpose and the main idea of the paragraph as you see it in 2, 3, or 4 words or so. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do that in real time here, but of course I'm going to speed through it so you don't have to sit through 3 minutes of me reading. But I'm going to jot in the margins a good passage map for this particular passage so you can see what I'm talking about in a second when we go through the 3 benefits. Okay, so I can't go through all the intricacies of this particular passage here. You could pause it and read it for yourself if you want to get a greater understanding. But just to show you what I'm talking about, let's look at this paragraph right here. So this whole passage is about a guy named Jean-Michel Basquiat, who was an artist. And this paragraph that I just highlighted there is about how this artist had a show with Andy Warhol, who was another famous artist, and how the show did not go too well. It wasn't critically acclaimed. The critics' reviews were very poor and that kind of a thing. And so that's why I wrote over here B plus AW, so that's Basquiat plus Andy Warhol show, and then I put a sad face to denote that it wasn't a very big success. Okay, 3 big reasons why this is really beneficial on the ACT reading test. Now, is it necessary? Necessary is kind of a strong word. Obviously, I think that you can probably succeed or do pretty well on the test without this, but there are 3 big reasons why I think it's beneficial. Okay, reason number 1 is simply this. It forces you, the student, to pay attention to the bigger picture of the paragraphs, and that keeps you from getting snagged on every single detail as you read. Some of these passages are filled with hundreds and hundreds of details that you just can't possibly remember. So I know some of you students, you read a detail or a sentence, and you want to completely understand it, so you go back and you reread, and maybe you reread. We don't have time to reread and reread. Instead, it's much better not to get snagged on all those little details and to maximize the amount of time that we have actually answering the questions. If there's a detail that's necessary, we can come back and find it with the time we have. Okay, the second big benefit of this, and this is why it's called a passage map. I didn't invent that term. I'm just using it, okay? But the second big benefit of creating this kind of passage map while you read is that it does give you some kind of a map. So for example, if the paragraph was about the growth rate of pine trees or something, and all the rest of the essay is about pine trees, well, you can put next to the paragraph rate of growth, and then when you come to a question about it, you know where to go hunting for the details about that. You don't have to go searching around, and that's why it's called a map. It kind of pinpoints for you where you can find answers to a lot of these questions. Because again, I might have said this before, but out of the 10 questions that follow every single ACT reading passage, at least 8, sometimes 9 of them are going to require you to go back and find those right answers. And thirdly, one of the most asked kinds of ACT reading questions, and this is kind of like a bonus of the passage map, maybe not its original purpose, but one of the most asked kinds of ACT reading questions is, what's the purpose of the second paragraph? Or what's the purpose of the 4th paragraph? Or what's the purpose of the 7th paragraph? And you'll see that kind of question multiple times on the ACT reading test. And so if you've already got it scribbled in the margins, that already gives you a summary to work from, maybe instead of having to reread the entire paragraph. So there you have it. That is the ACT reading passage map and why it's beneficial. I should say that in the past I did have a student one time who came to me almost in tears because he just couldn't do this well, and it was giving him, he was already kind of an anxious kind of guy, and it was giving him a lot of anxiety trying to create these passage maps while he read, and it was really bad for him because it was just pumping up his anxiety, and he thought that he was failing because he wasn't doing it right. So my advice for him was look, don't do it. Just read and then answer the questions. Of course, use active reading, but for him, this was not a good thing. So you got to kind of judge that for yourself as well. So thanks for paying attention. Thanks for watching. Be sure to check out my other ACD reading videos as they come out, and God bless.